Your Excellencies, Chief Guest who has just departed, but the distinguished officials, particularly the Chairperson of Tourism Sri Lanka, and our guest speakers from the UN organizations in Sri Lanka, and I believe the partnering countries who are online, and particularly our Chairperson of this summit and conference, Professor Suranga de Silva, and the respected members of the Central Province Council, the President and the Executive Committee of the Alumni Association of Tourism Economics and Hospitality Management of the Department of Economics, University of Colombo, and all the ladies and gentlemen, Ayubowan. I convey my very best wishes to each and every one of you for a healthy, hopeful, and happy World Tourism Day 2020. I am deeply humbled and greatly honored to be invited to address this august audience in an era of such uncertainty and the consideration that we often have to give attention to for alternative options on a subject area which is quite distant from my simple knowledge as a medic. Nevertheless, the economic regain of our people and the country is very close to my heart, firstly as a citizen of Sri Lanka, and secondly as the incumbent academic and admin lead of the pioneering seat of higher education in Sri Lanka. We support approximately 30,000 adult learners and their supervisors, which makes me appreciate the need for value-added education to help Sri Lanka rebuild her economy with confidence, resilience, and optimism in these very trying times. So I congratulate Professor Suranga and the Department of Economics of our own Faculty of Arts on two counts. First, for your astute commitment to provide the sound educational foundation, as you have said, the knowledge partner for the professional fields of tourism and hospitality. Your quest did not culminate in developing mere study programs. You have paved the way to partner the major national and international stakeholders to organize, I believe, the 7th successive meeting of researchers and leaders in the field of tourism and hospitality. This portrays your visionary planning and networking, both internally and regionally and globally, with a purpose to give life and lift to a major player who has suffered immensely with the ongoing health hazards of COVID-19. Your theme, Crisis Management, Resilience Building for Sustainable Development of Tourism in Sri Lanka, is very appropriate. I take this opportunity to wish your academic and corporate groups the best of deliberations to take tourism in Sri Lanka back on track, which being a highly valued industry. Ladies and gentlemen, it is well accepted that travel and tourism today is the worst impacted sector with phenomenal economic and social impacts. The ongoing threat that is projected to persist at least by the last quarter of 2021 clearly needs a realistic examination of its potential for recovery with a pragmatic approach. Health and safety being the world's foremost need today, it is worthwhile our exploring the actual needs of today's domestic and international travelers. Sri Lanka's success in containing disease spread in the community through best practices of preventive health being implemented with military precision, as you heard, also needs to be factored in. Reopening entry for foreign visitors with free movement must not lead to any breach in the country's health and safety. In the short and medium term, the physical movement of people must not be viewed as being solely for leisure and pleasure, but as a health gaining experience, and that is something that we need to give our attention to. This approach would help Sri Lanka develop the best fit model along the path of health and wellness that is a priority for our international tourists and should most probably be targeted for around mid-2021. Firstly, we need to recognize why the world's foremost travelers rate our country as number one tourist destination. Sri Lanka's most conducive environmental and climatic factors are no doubt the prime reason. Our beautiful beaches, the multifaceted ancient cities that date back to several thousand years, scenic beauty of the hills, the amazing biodiversity are well recognized. But I ask you, would the average traveler take a risk of traveling across continents during these uncertain times? However, our indigenous knowledge and practices that address health and safety are strongly influenced by culture and religious inputs that date back to 500 BC. And these indigenous practices have remained a hidden treasure and have remained under-recognized. They being the invaluable pillars of support for our outstanding health indices despite many resource limitations. So in the context of modern day definition of health, a state of complete physical, mental, social, spiritual well-being and not merely absence of disease or infirmity has to be taken into account. We need to be conscious that health is a state of balance, being in equilibrium within oneself and every citizen's social and physical environment. The worldwide trends of living, working, coping with multiple stresses must not be underscored. Additionally, the demographic transitions of aging populations amongst most communities, including our own country, require us to focus on the provision of special needs of today's clientele in this context. The practice of mindfulness meditation has captured the attention of most people over the last 5 decades. Such practices as Vipassana meditation, having originated from Eastern philosophies, Buddhism in particular, are well substantiated through modern scientific discourse and they are much sought after. Mental disorders, from which most of us are prone to suffer from, is what caught the attention of Siddhartha Gautama, who taught the world the required therapy for mental disquiet and dissatisfaction. Its practice has been acclaimed worldwide as a very beneficial factor for a balanced and happy existence in today's context. This is particularly an important factor when coping with the consequences of the COVID-19, from social isolation, fear of disease, fear of death, coping with economic and developmental downturn, to the need to adopt to a digitized work system, to mention a few. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, Sri Lanka's tourism industry has relevance and potential today to optimize the provision of health and wellness through inherent and proven Sri Lankan practices of Ayurveda and Hela Vedakama. Sri Lanka has a niche product in her knowledge and practices of wellness tourism based on traditional and Ayurveda fields of study that must remain pure, untainted by Western influence and market values. We must also appreciate Ayurveda and other indigenous forms of medicine for their unique principles, traditions, practices, application and scope that are so well interwoven with local beliefs, culture and social boundaries. So permit me to, in very point form, to talk a little bit about Ayurveda wellness tourism, which I acquired from our own Ayurveda Institute, which is 91 years old. Wellness tourism is defined as traveling for purposes of promoting health and well-being through physical, psychological, and spiritual activities. Wellness tourism is often correlated with medical tourism because wellness tourists are proactive in seeking to improve and maintain their health and quality of life, often focusing on prevention. While medical tourists generally travel reactively to receive treatment for a diagnosed disease. So we need to identify that these two are not one and the same. So with the rising demand for our traditional healthcare practices and the growing emphasis on preventive healthcare models, medical and wellness tourism gains immense popularity. While tourism and the hospitality sector recorded a 5% annual growth worldwide before the corona, the luxury wellness segment actually grew annually by 20%, as what the world statistics say. And that was driven by the growing group of rich clients willing to pay as much as $3,000 a night and stay up to 2 weeks at a resort. And this probably is the best fit for today's need, where we have a resort for the high-end clients and we provide them health and safety along with health giving. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to take too much of your time because I know you're running seriously late, but Sri Lanka must look forward to wellness tourism with its unique historical links to Ayurveda, Buddhist meditation, yoga, and healthy balanced living. As you know, Ayurveda has a different concept to the Western medicine, and they would look at what we eat, how our bowels work, and that has a connection to our mind and sense of well-being. So we need to explore these because there are scientific factors that have confirmed this, and we need to truly behave as a group, a connected group. And I would pledge from the University of Colombo, Professor Suranga, to create a little task force of linking up your group with the indigenous medicine group and support Tourism Sri Lanka. Thank you very much.